bit here just to improve our sort of turnaround time on experiments. So let's see if with ASON's patch backed out we see an improvement. Because if we do, then we have what we need. Like we have the best. We have what we want, which is the ability to debug the stuff locally, which is ideal. Come on now. Okay, so let's take a look at the data without ASON's patch. So tab paint from parent, the score value was 29, and before tab paint, let me bold, before the value was, oh my goodness, why can't I see this value? Tab paint, parent, unit value 37. Hey, maybe we've caught it here. Tab paint from parent, so it was 51, 56, 32, 29, and then without ASON's patch. So notice that with ASON's patch, we have this really expensive first frame, second frame, and then last frames, and then without it, we also have a couple of expensive frames, but not too many. We just have like this one and this one. So is it possible that we're like somehow, like how these, it's kind of bimodal. We have the 24 and then we have these like 50s. 53, 1, 2, 3. We have 4 of them, and we even have a 61 here without ASON's patch. So 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to recount 4. We have 4, and then with his patch we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have more with his patch. So I wonder if now we possibly have the information we need locally. That would be amazing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rerun this test. I want to get some assurance here, some consistency, make sure that this isn't just noise somehow. And then what we're going to do is we're going to gather a profile locally, which I can do pretty easily. I was able to do that yesterday. And then I'm going to examine them with you, and then maybe we'll figure out what is going on. Now, one of the things that I think is going on is that the test is just poorly written, and I can say that because I wrote it. So I'm happy to slam myself here and say that the test is poorly written. One of the ways it works is it's using like date.now and looking at Moz after paint events, when maybe we should be looking at the timestamps that are on the paint event themselves. Now, in my defense, the paint events, so we get these paint events anytime we send the pixels down to the compositor, and so presumably at the next vsync, once the compositor has received those layers and composited them, they'll be presented to the user. So it's almost presented to the user time, and that's what this test tests. Open a tab, and then time how long it takes from the point where we asked for the tab to be opened to the point where the content process says, ah, I sent those layers to the compositor to be shown to the user. And the way we're doing that is we fire an event in the content process whenever those composites, the layers are uploaded. But then the way that we look at the time delta is that we look at the time when the event is processed. And the time that the event is processed might have some amount of delay before, like the actual time that we care about is when the event is queued, when it's fired, not whenever, or even further back, because the event might be queued some number of milliseconds after the paint is, or the layers have been uploaded. So what we actually want is the layer upload time, and we've been trying to approximate that by using the time when the event is accepted by the test. But it's possible that this test is being very fragile, and we're falling off like a little cliff here, where the test is sort of needing to look more precisely at the actual time when the layers are uploaded rather than whenever the event is processed. So this is another run with ASON's patch backed out. And do we see an improvement? Tab paint from parent value 36.14, and before we had 37.0. That's pretty damning. So that seems to indicate, yes, there's an improvement here locally. And what's so strange is that we don't see that improvement on on try. I'm willing to make that trade. I'm actually happy to make that trade because now we can actually do something about it. It's actually quite fortunate that it happened just before this episode that we noticed it. So huzzah! So let me put this tab paint from parent. Yeah, there's another 29.0 happened here. The actual tab paint metric was 37, and the tab paint metric up here is 41, and then value. So let's run it again with ASON's patch. I've reverted the change I did, so we're putting ASON's change back. I'm just going to get another data point with his patch, and then let's get some profiles and let's try and figure out what is going on. I don't know why I played that. I'm super caffeinated. I'm really enjoying my sounds today.
Hey, what happened?
It's me, Mario!
Do let me know if I'm being too obnoxious. Apparently streaming on YouTube is down. That was sent to me like a couple of minutes ago. Shoot. Let me pull that up. What has happened? What has happened? YouTube live dashboard. Live dashboard. Oh no, now it wants me to log in. Hang on a second, folks. I hope YouTube streaming is back up already, but if not, we'll take this time while we're gathering. Just doing some two-step auth here. Give me a sec. Sorry, this is taking so long. 5. Okay, and the stream health. Apparently I'm offline. Shoot. What the dealio? Oh, no. The stream is continuing. The stream is online, apparently. Yes. Apparently you can see me. Okay. Okay. Hopefully you can also hear me. And we have our Telos data back. So let's see. This is with ASON's patch. Let's take a look at the score. The score was a little bit lower. This actually looks better. And tab paint from parent is down here. So that's interesting. It's like a little sensitive. Let's run it again. Let us run it again. Another thing we might need to try is running the entire suite of tests, because perhaps that's the reason I can't reproduce it locally. It's because I'm running just the one test. And I'm pretty sure that we like tear down the browser in between test runs, but maybe we don't, and maybe somehow we're affecting it. Come on now. Okay. Well, hang on. Let's go back to these notes here. Notice how in the second run we still like periodically we'll get one of those expensive frames, and presumably those expensive frames are what's causing this or what's contributing to this. So maybe we just need to capture an instance of one of these expensive frames and examine it. And we happen to get one in that last run, and maybe that's what we need to do. We need to like look at it and understand it. So while we're building symbols, is there something useful I can do here? While we're waiting on that, maybe I can, because I don't know how building symbols might take like 5 minutes or something. So let's put this aside. We'll monitor it in the corner here. But in the meantime, maybe there's something else I can do. You know what I'll do is I'll actually look at my review queue. And I'll put this make this window just a little bit smaller so I can see in the corner when this is done. Okay, so what do I want to clear out? This is what the neat info I'm trying to clear out right now. This is actually a neat info I can probably clear right now because I have a patch for this that is waiting on review. So I'm going to clear the neat info. What do I want to look at next? There's a neat info on myself. This is from earlier. I landed or I posted a really speculative patch up for review, and I asked Ting about it. I'm not sure if I'm suitable to review the patch, but I have a few questions. Why do we lay out a background tab before it is active? Is it for pre-render? And why do we send set dock shell as active? Do we send it only when the tab is moving to foreground? What if we make force paint the interruption point instead? Why do we lay out a background tab before it is active? Is it for pre-render? I have no idea. This is, I presume, layout is just something that we continue to calculate even when a tab is hidden. I agree, that's a bit odd. Actually, that's a good question to ask someone. Is it expected? Hey, mind if while you're there, I'm gonna ask a question, IRC. If I ask a question, hang on a second. Layout even when a dock shell is not active. Like, I know we skip painting, or we should, but do we skip layout? I think we still need to lay out the dock shell, it says. Can't remember why. Okay. Who would know? Okay, and meanwhile, why do we send set doc shell as active? Do we send it only when the tab is moving to foreground? We send set doc shell as active when the tab is made visible when a tab. Ah, right. The folks in content mentioned that background scripts might still require layout information even when that page scripts might still require layout information even when a tab is not being painted, which explains why layout is perhaps necessary. At least in some cases. We send set doc shell is active. Oh, hey, our symbols are done. That's good. We can go back to our original task. Okay, so now that symbols are done, we're going to run the Talos test, but we're going to say gecko profile, and we're also going to say symbols path, and then we're going to pass it the path to the symbols that we just created. Couldn't layout make the doc shell become visible? Sorry, do you mind if I drag this IRC window on screen while I live hack? Like, I feel the internet. I'm just asking if cool. All right, so I'm bringing this chat here. So let's see. Yeah, I guess I mean, why do we do layout if the top level doc shell is not active? In the content process for a background tab if the top level doc shell is not active. I understand the need if script requires layout information, but it seems like we do layout regardless of whether or not script wants it. Okay, so now we have our profile. Let's take a look at it. Oh, did we have any instances where we saw we had only one cycle? Oh, we have two cycles. A shorter one and then a longer one. Okay, let's take a look at the longer one. Cycle 0 profile. Or maybe, you know what? Maybe I should do that again, but this time gecko profile interval, TP cycles, TP page cycles, tab paint, gecko profile entry. Strangely, only one cycle. Why it was only caught once, I don't know. But let's take a look. We've got this profile here. 782 kilobytes. Let's hope it's symbolicated. It is. And there's like no main thread stuff for some reason. That's really unfortunate. Why would there be no main thread stuff? Ugh. Why are there no main thread samples? Why is Zool... Why isn't it symbolicated? Shoot! This was working before. Parsing sim file. Maybe I passed the wrong... Is it symbols path, or maybe it should be symbol path? Lock, Talis, test, help. It's symbols path, right? Symbols path, yeah. Symbols path. Maybe it doesn't want the full one. Maybe it wants just that one. Run again. Given we ran as display driver at a reduced rate, maybe we need it for that, but I think we're turning that off. Maybe smaller BZ, no. I think this is a trade-off. If script running on throttled RAF or timeout is changing the DOM causing layouts, then we can put them off at the cost of having a flash of old layout when the tab newly becomes active. I see. I see. By keeping the layout info up to date, then switching the tab is just a matter of painting the new layout. Got it. Okay. We do 2 cycles. And we saved it. And did we symbolicate it is what I want to know. I got a bad feeling we didn't. So I'm not seeing Zool.sim here. And that's bad because, yeah, 709. Shoot, how come I don't have symbols now? What is going on? This was working sort of yesterday, and I don't have the parent process. Grrr, what is happening? Okay, well, one thing that I did do that might help us move forward is I did modify the test to use what I was describing, which is the which is the event paint time as opposed to when the event is processed. I use that here. And then I logged some information actually. Maybe I can use, I can take a look at that now. Cycle 1. Paint. Paint timestamp now and when opened, delta 22 milliseconds, delta 20 milliseconds, delta. 46 milliseconds, 42, 40, 43, 40, 49, 40. Okay, so I wonder if that's really all we need, is just this alteration to the test, and that will make it more resilient. Now, where did I put... Can't find it, so I'm going to re-import it. Where am I? Okay. Going to import that. Gotcha. So now I can answer this question. I asked around in content about this. There are a number of reasons. Primarily, we want to make sure that layout is up to date, even if the tab is not visible, so that things like script that are running in the background tab can query for layout information properly, but also so that when the tab does become active, we don't have to flush everything. Flush everything all at once. When we do send set doc shell is active, do we send it only? Okay, so I've done importing that, the test alteration. Let's see what happens whenever I run. I rename this test, or rename this patch. Make tab paint talus test rely on Moz after paint timestamps as opposed to event processing timestamps. JMR. Let's take a look now. What happens when we run this test locally with that change? And we are with ASON's patch. And we could push that to automation for testing at the very least. We wouldn't be able to get profiles out, but we might be able to say whether or not it's had an impact, which I think it should. Now I'm kind of stuck waiting for this test to finish. Play some sounds.
It's me, Mario.
Okay, so the value with ASON's patch with test alteration, value slightly better. That's okay. But notice that we get rid of all those high numbers, which is good. There's one high one here, but that's okay. Value 23. And let's see how stable it is. Or actually, let's see what happens when we back Ason's patch out now. Or let's see if it changes any. I don't think it should. Linking Zoo. I really should have more Zelda sounds. I haven't actually played the new Zelda on the Nintendo Switch. I should probably try that whenever I have time, if I ever get time. Okay, do the test. Why is this taking so long?
Mamma mia!
So, without Ason's patch, with test alteration, let's take a look. 30, which is slightly better, but maybe we're in the noise. Let's see here. Value is 21. Value slightly more expensive. Interesting. Interesting. Although in general, look, like that was more expensive than that. That was more expensive than that. Is there like some huge cost that suddenly shows up in here? It's like, and cheap, 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 cheap. And then there's a 42 here. Like that one, I guess, kind of gets high cost. Maybe this was a fluke. Let's try that one again. And then maybe we can push it to try, compare them. And then I need to find a way of explaining why the... Because, like, I think what's actually happening... I have a log that I think will help explain some of this. I have a log from a patch that I pushed last week. And we'll look at it next after this run. Okay, so this is again without ASON's patch. How did we do? Pretty consistent. Pretty consistent there, but like that's really not that far off. We might have been in the noise. Going back to frames one more time, one more run with ASON's patch. Let's see if we can get a low one. I know this is a lot of running Talos tests. Well, while we're waiting for that to build, I can pull up that log I was telling you about, and we can take a look at it. It had diagnostic goop. That was the... This is with ASON's patch backed out, diagnostic goop. And then I had one that was with ASON's patch, diagnostic goop. So this one... Okay, so this is with ASON's patch. Okay, this is without ASON's patch, I believe. Oh shoot. No, I've lost track. Let's close all the tabs. I don't want to get confused here. So this one is with ASON's patch. With. And I'm going to put that right over here on the left. That's with ASON's patch. And this is where the test begins. But this actually does not have the diagnostic goop I'd put in. So where is it? Might be this one. Okay, yeah, no, it's not. Come on, where is it? Nope. This is with it backed out. And then, did I have one with it in that worked? Maybe it's this one. Yeah, okay, so this is with ASON's patch. I'm going to put that on the left there. And then with it backed out, and in fact, what am I doing? I kind of had this in my notes already, up here. But basically, in the bad case, with ASON's patch, I've noticed that when we run the first cycle, these afterpaints are coming from the parent, I believe. Or sorry, no, from the background tab. PID 1802. No, these ones are coming from the parent. This one, 1802 is, I believe, the name. Yeah, it's the parent process. And all of the logging comes out of the parent process for some reason. But even though the messages themselves are coming from the child. So we start cycle 1. The page opens, and in the bad case, we have not painted yet. Have not sent. The page is open without us having painted yet. Then we paint, and then we fire Moz after paint. In the good case, the case where we don't have the regression, a paint has already occurred by the time that the tab paint So I think what we have here is a time, this is what I think we have. Suppose I'm going to draw really sloppily. Do I have like a drawing tool? I don't think I do. Annotate. No, I just want to draw on it. Well, I'll use just figures or characters. So here's a timeline, and let's say each one of these is 16 every time the refresh driver ticks. So roughly, we paint a frame each time if anything needs to be painted. And I think what's going on is that in the bad case, so we'll have two of these. We'll have bad case and good case. I think in the bad case, so let's say there's no paint here. So that's the 0th paint. There's no paint. And this will be the first paint is right here. I suspect that in the bad case, page loads right here. And then it's measuring this delta, roughly. Roughly what is measured. Then in the good case, I suspect that the page load, like by the time that the page load event fires, or the test wakes up to do its thing, we've already painted once. Page loads. And it's also possible that the Moz after paint event is still en route. Like, because that's what we end up picking up here. We get the Moz after paint event, transaction 1. So, like, we end up measuring a smaller window of time because, wait, no, does this make sense? Do I have this right? Page loads. We end up measuring something like that, presumably. And then what I'm saying is that we're already, say, like halfway through dealing with that. Page loads. And then I think what's being measured is like, I need to know what the 0 endpoint is. It's the time that the parent asks the tab to open, which is like, actually, when you think about it, it's like back here. Okay, so let's do that again. Page loads. And then the Moz after paint. What I think is happening is this paint's Moz after paint is what's being reacted to. So 1, that's paint 1. Moz after paint 1 handled. In the bad case, because the page loads so early, is this defendable? This hypothesis? I don't even have the hang on, I gotta line these up right. Page loads. Why would this be longer than this? Is I guess what I'm trying to figure out. Under what conditions? I'm trying to come up with a decent hypothesis because like I don't have the profiler. I don't have the ability to reproduce the bug. I don't have the profiler. We do know that this is true. The page loads like somewhere in here between 0 and the first paint. And then in the good case, the page actually loads, or sorry, in the good case, page loads somewhere in here. So the page load is occurring earlier, which is great. The other thing to know is actually, taking a look at the test. Is that we wait for the load event, and so I wonder if the load event, like page script runs, I should say. Page script runs. Is it possible that the load event is somehow happening later? Got mods after paint with transaction ID 1 on the first load, very first paint. And then what we do with it is we take the now time and we take the delta between the two. We send that delta back. In the bad case, page script runs here. When does load occur? Load occurs sometime after this. Load event fires. And then the mods after paint 1 is handled. When, in the bad case, is the load event fired? Page open line. Somewhere in there. Between zero. Somewhere between the page opening and actually painting, the load event fires. Load event fires in here. And in the good case, page script runs here. And the load event fire maybe. Load event fires. And then part of me wonders if the big difference is that there's like, in the bad case, we're waiting for the first frame, which has not been painted yet. Like, we know that in the bad case, the first frame has not been painted yet. Because by the time that the page runs its script, the last transaction ID is 0, meaning nothing has ever been painted. Nothing has been painted. However, whenever page script runs in the good case, something has already been painted. But that shouldn't matter, because... Should it matter? Should it matter? Something has already been painted. Load event fires, and Moz after paint 1 would be handled. Anyways, in the end, Moz after paint 1 is what is handled. Got Moz after paint with transaction ID 1, and I don't think we do anything special with it. No. In both the bad and the good case. There's a transaction ID 2 comes out too, firing 2, right after transaction ID 1. And does that happen here as well? Yeah, eventually. Here. And just to refresh my memory, the test does two things, one right after the other. It opens the browser tab from content using like an about blank link or a blank targeted link, and then it opens one from the parent by like hitting Command T or something. I'm just trying to remember how that works. Talos, tab switch. And which one's first? Sorry, it's not tab switch, it's tab paint. Tab from parent, and that's the one we care about. Excuse me. So the first one is the one we care about in a cycle, and that would be this one. And in the bad case, there's no transaction ID, so we're waiting for that paint, and then the paint event comes up. In the end, it doesn't matter, I guess, that the paint event is for a paint that already occurred, because it's the time that we process the event that seems to matter. And whenever I pushed my patch that like rejigged the test, what was that? Here, yeah. We were down in the 30s. Which was here. What are we gonna do? I don't get it. But I do think that the problem is that it's the sensitivity to when the event is processed. Like, I think that is where we're losing. hypothesis. There are more events in the queue to process for some reason with ASON's patch, meaning that we don't get to the mods after paint 1 until later. If that's true, then the fix I made to the patch, like this fix, will work. Because what I'm doing is the paint timestamp is relative to the current window, so I like take the current date, I subtract that amount of time, and then I take the delta there. That's a typo. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this to try with and without ASON's patch, and we're going to see if that works. And we're going to compare them. So let's push this to try. And I'm going to ask for an artifact build for speed. Opt only, artifact build, other. We're going to retrigger all jobs for 5. Baseline. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to push this up for review. I feel pretty confident that this is going to fix the regression. I just wish I had more concrete information about why it's doing it. But I think it comes down to the fact that we might wait a frame before processing certain events. Okay, so then I'm going to apply this on top of, or actually I can just manually do it. Push to try. And this one I can't do with an artifact build because I'm changing native code. And then let's push it to try. Or no, let's put it up for review. And we'll see what Joel Marr thinks. Whew. And I think I'm going to call the episode there. It was a very frustrating episode. I don't know if I was happy with it. I want to finish this off too. When do we send set doc shells after? Yes, we send this whenever the user moves a tab into the foreground to become visible. What if we make force paint the interruption point instead? The problem is that, at least currently, force paint, well, I guess we could do that, but I'm not sure how it'd work. It'd work really. Force paint works by interrupting JavaScript from the process hang monitor thread. Could we, would we, are you suggesting we do something? How are you suggesting we somehow make it so that the process hang monitor thread can set a value during force paint? Shouldn't we somehow, I don't know, have some kind of bool between process hang monitor and puppet widget, where if the process hang monitor receives the directive to force paint, it flips that, it takes a lock and flips that bool, and flips the bool, and then when puppet widget wants to report possible input so that we can interrupt layout, it takes a lock and checks that bool, something along those lines. I'm gonna redirect that back to Ting. Or am I misunderstanding? Okay. Revert that. Push. I guess I have to do the thing where I like increase the version of the because it's an add-on. The tab paint, all this stuff, it's an add-on. So and I have to sign it and stuff. But for now, I'll just like bump the version. Okay. Push to review. I'm still thinking about like how that event thing would work. Assign to paint. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a good enough model of how this stuff all works in my head to have a decent hypothesis, but I'm pretty sure this is going to take care of it. So ultimately, I think what's happening here is that, so after looking, I wasn't ever able to get this regression reproduced locally, and I wasn't able to ever get profiles, and despite multiple attempts, I'll get profiles from the Talos machines and automation. This is mostly a guess, but I think it's a pretty good one. Essentially, I think this test is too sensitive to how we schedule event dispatching, schedule events. More precisely, the way it works is that we take a timestamp when the regression is strictly the end of the point where we stop the stopwatch for the delta that we are calculating for these tests relies on using date.now whenever the Moz after paint event is handled. The problem with that is that the Moz after paint can be handled and arbitrary handled long after the paint and upload to the compositor has ever occurred, depending on how many other events are in the queue to be processed. Thankfully, not long ago, a paint timestamp was added to the Moz after paint event so that we can say with some precision when the paint occurred. Now, what we do instead is, with this patch, we now calculate the stop of the stopwatch by taking the current time and subtracting the Moz after paint timestamp, which is how long ago did, or wait, oh, is it? How long ago? That might not be right. When did it occur? When in the lifetime? When in the lifetime of this window did we paint? At what time in the lifetime did we paint? And upload textures. That gives us a rough estimation of at what time in the lifetime of this window. But that not, oh, I might be wrong here. Because that's not the same as how long ago did that occur. And I'm doing a subtraction. That might be wrong. I might be wrong here. Paint timestamp. Now, at the very... Okay, let's do another diagram here. Paint timestamp. I'll just use a P there for paint timestamp. And so if you do the Moz after paint, then if you want to capture what is essentially you want to capture what is essentially that, then how do you do it? You have the beginning time, which is like X. You have this Moz after, you can calculate roughly when the Moz after paint event was handled, Y. P is the name of, is this distance here. And this is what we want, here to here, using this information. And Y is the, we can calculate we also, like, we don't know necessarily, you know, it's at 0. But do we know when 0 is? Like, do we know how much time to add to X? Because there might be other stuff. Like, that's the problem, is that we want to be able to capture sort of this other stuff that might be leading up to the paint, but we don't know how big this is. If we could determine this value, the time between the paint, like if we can figure out what this is, then we're golden. And that's what we want. I feel like I should know how to do this. This shouldn't be so hard. how come this is so hard? My brain is like not working right now. But that's what we want. We want this value. And I know this value. And we know that. So we're going to call that D. Let's write some formulas. D equals here. So let's write some formulas here. So x plus d equals y, certainly. We know that p plus d is that anything that we can reason about? Because y is like that. Yeah, it makes more sense. X plus d equals y. P plus d equals, well, this is completely unknown. Like, we don't know what this amount of time is, but we know we want to capture it. So I don't think we can do much with P plus D because we don't know what, like, how to represent this stuff. I could call it question mark. P x minus P plus D equals, like, I'll call this like the void. And then how do we calculate D? X plus D equals Y. So hang on, is it as simple as, hold on a second, just rearranging for D? D equals Y minus X? That's not right. Y minus, because this is X. So no, this is wrong. X plus D is not equal to Y. D is not equal to that. It's like void, X plus void plus, and P plus D equals Y. So can we, and void is an unknown. It's an unknown value. Do we have a way of knowing what this is? That would kind of solve it if we know when 0 time is. When the page is first run, can we calculate when that is? Like, do we get like window.performance? We have these timers. window.performance.timing, navigation start, DOM complete, DOM loading, fetch start, navigation start. Timing, navigation start. Whoops. Is the unsigned representing the moment right after the prompt for unload terminates on the previous document in the same browsing context? Fetch start. So maybe that's what we can use. Navigation start. So instead of calling it void, we can call that n. Navigation start plus p plus d equals y. And we don't really care about d. What we want is x plus n plus p equals what we want. So maybe that's just it. So instead of doing this, the subtraction, we'll say calculate navigation plus paint. Let fetch start equal window.performance timing.fetch start. Performance timing fetch start. And then we're going to add that fetch start plus that. And then we're going to take the delta fetch start, right? Hold on. Fetch start plus the timestamp. That tells us, that should give us actually y plus n plus p, because y is built into n. Or sorry, n isn't, performance timing fetch start is y plus n. N is the instant where navigation, the fetch started. So I think, yeah, we want to subtract opened. I think that's right. And then I don't need now anymore. Let's take a look and see what that does to our numbers. I'm actually going to take that patch down from review now. I worry, I don't want Joel Marr to review it. Got some math wrong. New patch coming up. I don't know why that was so hard. Okay. And where are we right now? Is my brain just broken? I feel like that should not have been that hard. Alright. Whoa. Tapping from content suffers a lot here. But, okay. With the test alteration, I'm going to invalidate these old ones. Without ASON's patch, test alteration. Okay. And now, I'm going to back out ASON's patch. Try it again. Fetch start is what we want, right? Fetch start. Fetch start from. Okay. All right, well, let's compare these two, and then I think I'm going to call this episode done. Not very satisfying. And my throat is killing me. You know, here's the thing. I have a feeling live hacking takes like a certain amount of energy and stamina, and you need to like build up the abilities and like it's like a muscle, and I feel like I haven't worked this muscle in a long enough time, so I am tired. And that's probably affecting my thinking ability right now. So hopefully next week hopefully nothing will come up and like cause me to cancel that episode, but maybe I'll get back up to the sort of level of productivity I was at while live hacking, because wow, that today was hard. And maybe I'll hopefully have more interesting problems to work on. I always feel like this Talos stuff is always like fixing the tests, finding out how the tests are broken, as opposed to why we broke the tests. It's, well, how have the tests been, how are the tests actually testing the wrong thing this time? All right. So without ASON's patch, oh shoot, that last one was with ASON's patch, right? Yeah. So hold up. I'm gonna put this in here with ASON's patch, and then without ASON's patch is this stuff. Value. Aha. Actually has gotten better. What do you say? Probably in the noise. Okay, so I'm going to, I guess, write up a comment. If it, I don't know. Again, I don't know why it was so hard to come up with that calculation. It really shouldn't have been, but I'm going to write it up in here so that no one else has to go through that again, and hopefully help other people who are reviewing this patch double check my work. And then that's what I'm going to do right now, but I'm going to do it outside of this episode because we're done. That was episode 101 of The Joy of Coding. Hopefully that wasn't too painful. Thank you so much for being here with me. Just a reminder, I like to know how you feel about these episodes, so if you wouldn't mind, there is a link near the agenda and in the agenda on how you can rate this episode. Let me know how I'm doing. For those folks on Twitch, I'm about to drop it into the Twitch chat Boom, there it is. Do let me know how I'm doing, what you thought of this episode. I'm afraid it was a little bit down in the gunk of looking at logs and trying to figure out stuff and wrestling with Talos, but sometimes that's just how it goes. So, thank you so much for watching episode 101 of The Joy of Coding. I hope to see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.